and I practiced it yesterday, hitting the record button. So there you go.
Outstanding. Well done, and you didn't miss. So, brief introductions. Jeff, why don't you start?
This is Jeff Shaffer. I'm the Chief Operating Officer and Vice President of Information Technology and Analytics at Unifun in Cincinnati, Ohio. Adjunct professor at the University of Cincinnati, where I teach data visualization. Shout out to our Lindner College of Business folks and our brand new College of Business that we've been teaching in now this semester. Let's see, four-time Tableau Zen master, I guess, and author, co-author of the Big Book of Dashboards with Steve and Andy Cockreef.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm Steve Wexler. I'm the founder, principal, and sole employee of Data Revelations. I was Tableau's inaugural Iron Viz champion, and that was many years ago. If it's not awkward enough to try to explain to people outside of Tableau what a Tableau Zen Master is, try explaining what a Tableau Zen Master Hall of Famer is. Um, and I'm certainly proud of those accomplishments, but within data visualization, the thing I'm most proud of being one of the three authors, along with Jeff Shaffer and Andy Cotgreave, on the Big Book of Dashboards. And I need to change that Twitter handle that's in the bottom left. I'm no longer at VizBizWiz, but I'm now at Data Revelations. Slowly, I'm figuring out all those places and fixing it. So we advertise this as being, two data visualization people duking it out. Um, Jeff and I and Andy had wonderful debates and discussions and arguments about data visualization, but it really wasn't duking it out. It was more kind of like fighting over a donut chart. And I got way better in having conversations with Andy and with Jeff, and we captured some of that in the book. But we wanted to continue that, and that's what we're doing in Chart Chat. Hey, here's what's interests us. Here's what we're thinking about stuff. Most of the time we agree. A lot of times we disagree, and just hearing each other's arguments, I think, makes for better visualizations. So briefly, here is our agenda for this morning. We want to discuss our friend and colleague Kelly Martin, who died recently, a little bit on how I spent the summer, a discussion of iterating, and irritating. I'm very good at that last part. Um, a brief look at the Data Visualization Society's annual community survey. I spent a fair amount of time looking at the data and trying to visualize it. If we have time, maybe a sneak look at Tableau's Animation Alpha, and then some time for Q&A. So with that, Jeff, actually, I'll let you take it from here, but I'll keep the slide deck going.
Yeah, that's a healthy agenda for today, and that's why we wanted to lead out with a discussion about Kelly Martin. So we made sure that we had enough time to talk about Kelly. Kelly passed away a week ago Monday, and she had been battling cancer. For those new to the community, you may not have had an opportunity to meet Kelly. I think she missed the last couple of Tableau conferences, and she had kind of been in the sidelines, battling, cancer for a while. Kelly, I first met Kelly a long time back. I think it was the 2014 conference. She competed in the Tableau Iron Viz. She was a four-time Tableau Zen master. She was featured on the stage here by Christian at the Tableau conference. Really an amazing. Just an amazing person. She was obviously, she checked all the boxes on the Tableau side. So, she had mad Tableau skills, for what she did. And, but even more so, I think the biggest thing was just her impact in design. Now some of you may not know, and I wrote a blog post about this. Steve actually reached out to Kelly and I about participating in the Big Book of Dashboards. And so Kelly was actually going to be our co-author on the Big Book of Dashboards. And we went down that road. We had lots of hours and hours and hours of conversation about what the book would be, and getting started, and about dashboards in general and design. And Kelly just had this amazing design eye, not even trained in graphic design, but just instinctive, just had instinctive eye for design. This is one of my favorite visualizations, probably my most favorite Tableau visualization, just because at the time, this was done in Tableau 8 when we first had floating containers. And she really showed us what could be done on a canvas in just such a simple way, making some really brilliant design choices. And this captured the attention at the time. Tableau even used this as a marketing piece for a long time, and I still use this is a slide from my class. And the next slide, Steve, is a slide that I use in my class to show just good design elements, good choice of color and chart types and layout. And I really love the way that she designed her dashboard. So that's a great loss for our community. And I'm going to miss the time that we had with her. And yeah, it's a big loss for us.
So the before she passed away, Kelly put together a final blog post, which she composed with Bridget Cogley, who is a dear friend and I guess protege of Kelly's. Both of them wrote some thoughts, and more than that, chronicling her care in the Canadian healthcare system, and how good it was in both prolonging her life and in improving the quality of her life. So do yourself, if you're not familiar with her, and even if you are, it's not hard to find Kelly Martin blog post. Um, Tableau Fit, the URL is a little easier, but Bridget Cogley and Kelly Martin, two names I hope you'll be familiar with, and read a little bit about the last year and the last months of Kelly's life. One thing, so I'll try to impart the impact that Kelly had on me, but also the community and on Tableau. And Jeff, you and I have had these discussions. It's hard not to look at things through a prism of what we're so familiar with. We're both professional musicians, both have master's degrees, and I can't help but look for a musical analogy. I think of Kelly. This is a picture of James Jamerson from his heyday in the '60s. He was the house bass player at Motown, and this is Jaco Pastorius, probably in the mid to late '70s. And why am I showing these two pictures here? Because they changed the way people thought about the instrument. It was, oh, you think this is what the instrument is supposed to do, and this is what you're constrained to? No, I'm going to totally change the way you should think about it and how it can work. That's the impact that Kelly had, and it changed Tableau forever. We all had this idea of here's the type of thing you can make, what it can look like, what it should be doing, and Kelly within a short amount of time said, no, I'm going to elevate everybody and take you here. Do not just think that she is this design goddess. Yes, she had an uncommon eye for design, but she had ridiculous analytical chops and analytic integrity. And it was that combination of incredible design and rock solid analytics that I think really lifted all of us. And I'm grateful that I got to know her and work with her, and she's certainly improved my work tremendously. So please check her out. Please read the blog posts. Um, Transition. So, how I spent my summer. This is not the only way that I spent my summer, but got to read a lot of really good books. Infinite Powers by Stephen Strogatz, which is about the how calculus can kind of unleash the secrets of the universe. I got to see The Galleys, or an early version of Cole Nussbaum or Knaflich's Storytelling with Data. Let's Practice. It's not just a practice book, it transcends that. R.J. Andrews, whose level of erudition is just crazy. His Info We Trust. Um, Weeping Willow, having nothing to do with data visualization, but it can help you help others deal with grief. Ben Orland's ridiculously charming math with bad drawings, one of which we use in our workshops, trying to show the pitfalls of averages. This book called Loon Shots: How to Nurture the Crazy Ideas That Win Wars, Cure Diseases, Transform Industries. There is a vignette in there about the invention of radar in World War II that so is applicable to dashboard design and the need to get your stakeholders involved, as the scientists who invented radar and the pilots who were supposed to use it were they were just out of sync. And once the scientists met with the pilots, um, it changed everything. But I'm going to bring attention to two books in particular, and they are both kind of descendants of the DNA that's in this book by Hans Rosling. So I've spoken with Jeff about this. I've blogged about this. This was my go-to book in 2017, and two books that had a profound effect on me in this year. One is Invisible Women: Data Bias in a World Designed for Men by Caroline Criado Perez. Um, Really eye-opening for me. And my father was an ardent feminist, which was very odd for someone who was born in the 1920s. And I thought that I had grown up oh so enlightened. And this is pointing out I actually have a great deal to learn. I cannot recommend it enough. It will illuminate and infuriate people, as it should. And the other is, this is not out yet. It comes out next week. How Charts Lie by, you know, our international treasure in the data visualization community, Alberto Cairo. And it is, he really wants to create a much more informed citizenry, and the book is great and it's important. So I would recommend everything that I've put up there. These two in particular had a profound impact on me. And Jeff, I know you've been doing some reading as well.
Yeah, the two I picked uh, are the history of information graphics and Am I Overthinking This? I did read a few of the books that you had on your list, but these two jumped out at me here recently. Maybe toward the end of the summer, I guess I got them. I think maybe if you could stop sharing your screen for a second, I'll just show you these works of arts here. This is a very small book. Am I Overthinking This? Really beautifully done. The illustrations in here are awesome. A lot of them are through pictures or hand drawn images of various things, but really just really well done. A fun book and one of the smaller books. It's about the size of my head here, maybe. So really small book. I think I saw Mark Bradburn had posted something about it on Twitter, and then it popped up in my Amazon feed like the same day. So I grabbed a copy. The other one, I didn't go to the gym or run today, so I just brought this book to the office as my workout. It's a history of information graphics, which has to be maybe the biggest book I've ever seen. Certainly the largest book on my bookshelf. It's just a ginormous work of art. Everything about it is amazing, down to the visualizations that are in them, the care that was taken, and I can't even open it here, without probably just taking up the full screen here. But just an amazing work of art. So these two books, probably opposite ends of spectrum on size and what they are. One is a historical, fact, and the other is more fun and taking a look at society today. But I definitely would check both of these out. Worth your time. I think when I opened the box and saw a history of information graphics, that would have been a good box opener video just to see what it looks
The
like.
um, and just a note about uh, Sandra Rengen, one of the authors of this. She also has a book, at least one other. I think it's called The Menard System. And just note to self: if you're ever in a room with Sandra and RJ, just don't talk, just listen. you know, the level of erudition is just amazing. So that's one of the things I did this summer, and the other is, well, anyone who has read the time chapter in the Big Book of Dashboards, or who has attended Andy Cotgreave's um, session on visualizing time, or who has attended a Big Book of Dashboards workshop, building world-class business dashboards, we discuss a timeline of timelines. And when did this notion of the dinosaurs are all the way to the left and the Middle Ages is kind of in the middle and Star Trek is over to the right? When did that come about? Well, this device, this is the um, um, uh, 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 Chronographie Universelle by Jacques Barbeau Dubourg from 1753. This is ground zero for the timeline as we've come to know it. And this is this amazing, it's 54 feet of human history um, in this um, portable scrollable box. And apparently, there are one absolutely known edition of this. It's a Princeton University rare books collection, and they believe there's another of these floating around someplace in Paris. Um, Other things that came out shortly thereafter. This is the chart of biography from Joseph Priestley, using the same technique of a regular x-axis for the timeline, but it all fits on one chart instead of 54 feet. And then here is William Playfair's timeline showing balance of trade between England and other countries. This is from 1786. These are all incredibly important in the history of data visualization. Well, back in February, Andy Cotgreave, our fellow author, noted that he would be coming to New York City in September. And I contacted him and said, hey, that's not far from Princeton University. Would you like to go and see the Chronographie Universelle? She said, wow, do you think we can get in? Yeah, I think we can get in. I'd like to think it had to do with me being an alum. No, that they'll probably let anyone who has a purpose for being there, a scholar who wants to study this. Turns out R.J. Andrews was going to be in town. Andy and R.J. were doing the great data visualization debate at New York City Tug. Um, and we went down to see the Chronographie Universelle. On our car ride, RJ says, when you go to visit these places, they often bring out other stuff. And so we got to see it, the Chronographie Universelle. I'm going to show you a picture in a moment. But Andy had this brilliant insight, and he said, any chance, do you have either Joseph Priestley's chart of biography or chart of history? And the librarian, and this is Gabriel, who works with Eric White there, said, well, we have both. And Andy goes, "You're kidding!" And then he asks about Playfair's balance of trade, and Gabriel says, "Well, 1786 edition or 1802 edition?" Oh my God! So here we are with the Chronographie Universelle and a chart of history, chart of biography, and soon to come out is in fact a booklet and all the different charts fold out. I didn't realize the booklet was, oh, here's the balance of trade with China, here's the balance of trade with Turkey, here's the balance of trade with these other, there's all these different maps that are in there. But what we had was the equivalent of the data visualization equivalent of the Magna Carta, the Declaration of Independence, and the Constitution all side by side by side, and we got to touch it and talk about it and look at it and examine it. Thank you, Andy Cotgreave at gravyanecdote.com. He has written a 3-part blog post about the whole experience that's there. If you are into data visualization and history, and you will cannot help but be enraptured by Andy's enthusiasm. And my goodness, going with RJ and Andy, only thing that would have made it better, Jeff, was if you've been able to join us there. It was
I'm
just
so sorry I wasn't able to come because I look at his Andy's bucket list right there, and all of those things. I've been there when he's done magic tricks. I may have been there when he's done a magic trick in a crazy suit. I wrote the book with him, and I've been involved with keynotes with him and watching him do keynotes. So that's yeah. I'm sorry I missed that bucket list with him. That would have been exciting.
so well. Hope you make it down there. All right, Jeff, I'm going to transfer over to you, and this is one of our recommendations in our workshops is the importance of iterating, 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 and then you bring me in for that last part, the irritating. So,
Never.
oh,
You
thank you, Jeff. You are too kind.
click yours, and we'll be off and running here. So just to set this up, the data I'm going to show you is something I visualized recently, last month or so. And the data comes from a website called ratemyprofessor.com. It's a website where students go. There's no incentive or anything. They fill out ratings. There's a scale that goes from 1 to 5 in these various categories, and you basically just enter your professor and your university. And I was interested in this. I knew about the website, but I was looking at their data, and so I was interested in potentially plotting this data. Now, I just did this for the University of Cincinnati, where I teach. It's a very large university. You'll see there's about 3,000 professors, about 3,050 professors found in the database here. We actually have a lot more than that, and there's many professors that aren't in the database. I'm not in there. And so I downloaded this data and I started to play with it. And right off the bat, the thing that hit me was this the scale of sort of when these ratings average out, they end up in this 4.1, 4.2, 4.3. They're in this sort of 1 decimal place when they average. And then there's this magnitude that's happening. For example, I think you can see, Evan here has the most ratings, and so the number of students. So you have sort of the rating itself, and then the magnitude. So that's the data. So the first thing right out of the gate, I thought for sure is, hey, I'm going to visualize this like we recommend in the book. This is a page right out of our book, the speaker rating comparison, where you have the rating exactly on a 1/10 of a point scale, and 1 to 5, just like the UC professor ratings. And then the size of the circle is the number of people. I thought this is going to be a great way to visualize this data, and so I went right down that path. The problem that I encountered right out of the gate was on the speaker rating, there's about 260 some speakers on that chart. And when I plotted this with the UC, there's 2,600 of them that have a rating in there. Of some value, 3,000 in the database, but I think there were 2,600 or so that had a reasonable value, so something with a student rating them. And so this just got unwieldy. When I tried to do it in the exact way that I did it with the speaker rating, I get this scroll and we see lots and lots and lots of professors that just have a rating of 1. And I just don't get the sense of where they are. I couldn't really fit them on a page. When I played with converting it from discrete in Tableau to continuous, I ended up with something like that. And, that fits on a page, but it wasn't getting me where I wanted to go. I started playing with this a little bit, thinking, okay, well, I can work with this, and so this is really where I started heading. I created this visualization, and you can see from a design standpoint, I'm past exploring the data. I thought this was going to be the way to view this, and I got finished with this. I took it to my first resource, which is my wife. I always run things by my wife. She is not a data analyst, not an expert in data, not an expert in visualizing data, just to get a sense, can she understand it? And she came back to me and said, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't get it. And I explained it, walked her through it, and she said, yeah, I'm sorry, I still don't get it. So that kind of sent me back to the drawing board on this one. I mean, it made sense to me. Large circle was number of ratings. Small circles were low number of ratings, and I had the granularity that I wanted. But I started playing with iterations on this. I got rid of the dots and went to lines. I tried to go with color instead of size. I think that made things worse because Evan, who is really the largest, Evan stands out as probably the most in there with 265 ratings. I can't really tell that Evan's any more red here than Lisa up here. So it doesn't really stand out. I lose that I really wanted to show. I tried that in a tall form and added a little bit of size to it, but again, I still lose Evan, here versus the next person. That sent me down another trail. In the book, we did rank and magnitude as two charts. So I started playing around with that where I could see the size of that. I lost all my little comparisons over here. I can't really hover over the small dots. And so I kind of lost that. Then I just started exploring the data with, maybe potentially lots of bad charts. I looked at a stacked, and then I looked at regular bars, and then I threw it, back in a dot plot and started playing with it. And, I ended up almost back to where I started. And then I just started different things. I said, okay, well, what if I go off of this and go to maybe a bubble chart?
Sorry.
Right. So yeah, this gave me the organization of 1 through 5, and I can certainly see Evan. Evan jumps out as a big circle. But now what I've lost is the individual. A 4.7 and a 4.1 are all lumped together in this bubble. Not to mention, that it's really hard to make these comparisons. Can't find anybody. They're all kind of hidden in here. Started playing around with a tree map. I thought this might get me there. I could see all of my little dots that are now little squares, and I could certainly build some interactivity to find these people. But now I'm lumping a 4.7 right next to a 4.1. A 4.1 is closer to a 3.9 than it is a 4.7, and so that was kind of moving in the wrong direction. I tried ranking them, and that didn't get me too far. So then I went back to my dots. I started playing with various jitters, iterating through these, and landed on a couple interesting things where I started to separate them back to where they were, in that 1.1, 2.1, and that finally led me to where I thought I had it. And my wife actually liked this a whole lot. She was like, "Oh, now I get it. I see, your 1.1, your 2.1s." But the problem I had here is just that there's so many 1 ratings that all these dots are just on top of each other. And if I really wanted to get to them, I was just going to have trouble seeing all those distributions. And so my final iteration of this was to separate them out in these quadrants, sort of small multiples of dot plots without jitter, just ranking them based on their size. And this is kind of where I ended up. Now, this is what I published. Even after I published, I got wonderful feedback from it. One person in the community pointed out that I spelled my name wrong. Somebody else in the community, I think it was Rodrigo, said, "Yo, Jeff, you forgot to put your you forgot to turn off your phone layout on this." And then Roddy pinged me and said, "Hey, I love this viz. Just a couple little design things. Maybe you might want to consider." And he thought that a thicker font on the top would be helpful. He thought that adding some shading on the boxes to separate them a little bit would be a little helpful. So you'd see kind of the border lines on it and a little thicker font. And then Steve, you came back and said, hey, if a professor only has 1 rating, I don't know that I care about that. And so you suggested putting in a slider so that I could get rid of the ratings, based on a certain number of people. And my wife came back, I think, and she was the one that said, "Okay, how do I find myself in here?" And so I added a filter because you're going to want to find yourself and see who you are. And so I built that where we could go down and look at a certain person. What I built here, interesting enough, is that when you click on somebody, I thought it would be really hard to find, your number over there and your dots. So I moved it right into the view over here on the left-hand side. I don't see if this is working. Of course, live demo, it doesn't work as expected. But a bubble chart over here is supposed to pop up, and I don't know why I didn't do that.
It did.
Probably
It
because I
did work
copied.
yesterday in rehearsal. I was there.
I know exactly what it was. Is I kicked over I copied it from another workbook, and I probably missed the sheet that comes with it. But
There
there
you
we go.
go.
kicks over a bubble chart so that you can see the actual person where you rate and your number of ratings and in here. So um, yeah, I mean, that's really the exercise in iterating. I think you could get a sense for how many different charts. I think I counted 16 different iterations and different techniques and different ways to visualize, and a lot of people helped. This wasn't a one person effort. This was feedback from Roddy and Rodrigo and Steve and my wife and others in the community. So it was yeah, Kevin Flairledge and Dee in my office. I showed it to them. So I had a lot of people who had looked at this through the different iterations of this.
And I enjoyed watching the process this come into fruition. I'm also really impressed with Evan Griffin. That you have that many people giving somebody that high a rating. Although I'm sure if you were in the system, Jeff, you would enjoy similar type of results. And I just loved the responsiveness of the filter, which is, if a professor only has 5 ratings, I don't know if you should ding them if they got a bad, or think, wow, I'm going to take this because they got something really great. So wonderful additions. And you mentioned that, I think you said Rodrigo said, you have this telephone layout on by default. I'm going to show something in a minute, and Ken Flairledge let me know the same thing, that I had published something to Tableau Public and didn't realize that all this beautiful
Yeah.
dashboard absolutely looked horrible um, when viewed on a phone. So let
Yeah,
me.
you know, Evan, you mentioned Evan, and he's such an outlier in this database here. He has so many ratings, 265 ratings, so many more, like twice as much as almost anybody else, and they're all good ratings. So I actually reached out to him. He teaches communication in one of the other colleges at the University of Cincinnati, and hopefully he's more than welcomed me to his class. I'm going to actually sit in on one of his classes and just observe what he does, because he seems like a great professor. So shout out
Yeah.
to Evan. Bravo.
All right, Jeff,
All
if you
right.
can stop sharing, and
Stop
I'll
sharing. Done.
thank you, and I will return the favor. Um, so. Um, I don't know if people know that there is an organization called the Data Visualization Society. This is something that was founded by Elijah Meeks and Amy Cecil and Jason Forrest and several other people. Um, I think it has over 3,000 members. I mean, they announced that they were creating this thing, and a lot of people have signed up, and they're trying to create a community where people can elevate the practice, um, uh, uh, share, experiment, and just get better. I'm tr- I think it's been in existence for less than a year. I meant to look that up, Jeff. Were you able to find out when the floodgates open to this?
The Slack channel was January for sure. I think the society was probably about a year ago.
Okay, so in any case, I think Elijah's been doing this uh, annual data visualization community survey for a few years, and now it kind of got, for lack of a better term, sponsorship um, from the Data Visualization Society, and 1,359 people completed this survey, or at least answered one question in the survey. Complete is a funny word. Um, Caveat: I spent a lot of time visualizing this data, probably something like 60 hours, and I'm going to give some shout outs to people who gave me a lot of help on this. This is not necessarily representative of the community, of the data visualization community. It's not even representative of the Data Visualization Society. We don't know who took this survey. It was floated on social media. People sent it out to their newsletter followers, things like that. So, and when there were certain questions or data points that I just thought might be damaging to analyze and promote as being, well, here's what people really think. Um, I elected not to visualize that data. In any case, um, this is maybe half, 2/3 of the survey, and I got some feedback from you, from Kevin Flairledge, Anna Ford, Andy Cotgreave, and huge help from Michael Davis from Transition in Thought, as the data was done in Google Sheets, and it was really messy. And he is uncommonly gifted at getting the data in the format that it needs to be in. So thank you, Michael, for your help with this. So let me give folks a preview of this. I have written up 10 fascinating findings from the Data Visualization Society's annual community survey. You can find it at datarevelations.com. DVS-survey, but there's also then a link to this. This is live and interactive, and anybody can work with it. So let me start first with the check all that apply questions. And I have, what technologies do you use to visualize data? And by default, I'm breaking it down by gender identity. You know what? Let me go to something else. Which of these charts have you used in the past 6 months? There we go. And you can see that, yeah, for the most part, men and women are giving similar results, except for scatter plots. What's up with this? 76% of men and only 63% of women, versus infographics, 40% versus 32%. I can break this down by other things like education. We see some interesting things happening over here. Break it down by education. It's hard not to see, wait, what's this dot over here? And there's, the kind of these outliers, and it's PhDs. So I have a little histogram showing what the response breakdown is, and PhDs just don't like pie charts, but they really like scatter plots compared to other people. And I thought, well, does that have to do with the number of years that you've been in data visualization? And it's interesting, it turns out if I look at people 10 or more, they're kind of have a shine to a pie chart. It's interesting thing. And I've kind of changed my thoughts on, there are, I will show you where I think a pie chart works, but I found that interesting. Let me go back. Let me look at organization type. Um, Really interesting stuff here, like infographics or pie charts or um, uh, uh, choropleth maps or field maps. Oh, journalists have a mud now. There are only 70 people. So this is one way of viewing the data. Here's the same set of questions, um, but I wanted to also show a margin of error that's associated with this. Um, and hey, I'm really curious about infographics and how they're being used by organization type. And so I can see that it's ranked 6th overall, but um, amongst journalists, it's ranked 3rd. And we can see, because there were so few people in journalism that responded, we can see that we've got a pretty big margin of error that's over here. Um, let's look again by education and see what's going on. And we'll look at the pie chart and see its use. And you can see that pie charts are ranked 4th overall, but 9th. These questions kind of go together. They're these visualizations go together. This one and this one. It's just two ways of looking at the same thing. I also found it, what technologies do you use? And I'm not surprised to see Excel way up there. I'm surprised to see Tableau that high. Um, um, and I'm wondering, who took the survey, but it's ranked number 2. If we do a breakdown by education, we're going to see that, hey, PhDs don't use it a lot, but people with master's degrees, bachelor's, and whatever other degree do. Um, let's see, let me go navigate back to home. I'll look at some of the sentiment analysis that's here. Um, and I'm going to break down by stakeholder relationship. So um, these are indicated a degree to which you agree or disagree with the question. And I'm using a divergent stacked bar chart here with the neutrals on the side. I agonize over what's the best way to show sentiment. I can also hover over these things and get more detailed: strongly agree, neutral, etc. And all of these are 5-point Likert scale questions, except this one, which was a 7-point question that I'd like 2 hours of my life back, please, for creating the thing so that this would just work universally. But leadership in your organization has a strong understanding of the value of data visualization. Watch what happens when I click this. And um, people were asked, do you view your relationship with your stakeholders as collaborative, consultative, or subordinate? And people who view it as subordinate in general feel really stymied. Look at this, 65% collaborative, only 41% think leadership kind of gets it in the subordinate role. I have adequate resources, etc. And again, we can break this down by a variety of different things, by location, by annual pay, by years. And you know, this is interesting, by annual pay. People who are making a lot of money, yeah, no problem, got everything I need. Um, hey, the so going down the benchmarking um, viewpoint on this thing, just looking at, hey, I've got 2,600 people, in your case, all the professors that are there. Um, Here, this is an interesting question, which is, what's your hourly rate? Um, Let me do this by hourly rate by organization type. Um, and most of the time, if you look at the N over here, you're going to see, you know, 1,300, 1,350 people responding. We've only got 453. Well, one reason we've got 453 is I filtered out anyone that doesn't charge at least $10 an hour, and anyone who's charging more than 400. You can get, you know, if you want to change that, you can go into the hourly rate over here and go to the filters. And also, Jeff, these hidden and collapsible containers. Oh, I just love this.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that, and the navigation that
Oh,
you
it's
have.
just such a pleasure. This makes us so much more polished.
I mean, it's
Um,
funny because the first time I saw dashboard navigation, I think it was your Viz. It was your Iron Viz from 1942,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and I
42. That's
pulled it
right.
up, and then you had dashboard navigation on it for I think it was STDs in Texas, and I couldn't figure out what you did, and I took your workbook apart, and it's so clunky, the old method, and this is so nice. I mean, the new method of adding these buttons and collapsible containers, it's seamless. We use them all the time at our office.
Agreed. And the reason for coming up with that kludgy navigation was people were not seeing the tabs. I would create this dashboard that had several tabs in them, and they would just go, yeah. They just thought there was one dashboard. Um, so I've just never seen people discover the tabs, but they kind of know what these things do. In any case, this is an odd question. Um, what is your hourly rate? And a lot of people thought, well, I don't charge an hourly rate. I'm an employee. So um, if we break this down by who's a freelancer and who isn't, these people who are not a freelancer, they're being billed out by their organization. So that's why we have a smaller N count on this. Um, Finally, the last thing is just kind of an understanding of who took the survey. And whoops, I want to leave it like this, which is, um, so here's everybody that took the survey. Um, and if I'm curious about, hey, I want to see PhDs, if I select PhDs, how many are there? And what's the difference between PhDs and the general population? Well, I did a pie chart over here, and I just put the N count in because I thought, hey, I think people can read that and go, that looks like about an eighth pretty easily. Same like if I just choose um, uh, women, I can see, hey, that's about a third. About a third of the respondents are women. If I'm curious about PhDs that are women, I can double these things up. I can see, oh, there are very few, and 50% are in academia versus the general population has 19% um, in academic. Um, Jeff, you and I chatted a little bit about this, and I kind of agree. I should probably have both the percentage and just the raw numbers that are there. In any case, I don't want to go over, but that is the survey results. There are a lot of questions. This is available for people to interact with, and I think you're going to learn a fair amount of cool stuff. Just realize It's an accurate reflection of the people who took the survey. We don't know if it's an accurate reflection of anything else.
I just throw in some comments. I just absolutely love this visualization. I mean, I had a peek at all your iterations through this, through the different design, but I just love where it ended up, the chart choices that you made, the dot plots, and the way that you're visualizing your confidence intervals. And I just love everything about it. And I've now added this to my class content actually just to show interactive visualization, because this to me jumps right out as I mean, this is kind of the pinnacle of interactivity, because if you were trying to visualize all of these things in a situation where you didn't have interactivity, it'd be a 200 page book.
Gotcha. Well, agreed. And I hope people find it useful. I learned a lot from doing it. Hey, Jeff, shall we give people a quick preview of the animation and then open things up for question, or should we just dangle this and say, "Oh, sorry, we've run out of time"?
Oh, I think I would show it. It's 2 seconds, and this will be our topic to discuss animating visualizations. Animation's been in Tableau for a long time through play control, but now we will soon be able to animate marks as they transition, and so lots of fun things that we'll be able to do with that, including this is bar chart races that I built with the Superstore data. I think you have another one with jitter.
Yeah, the
That's
so by the way,
I think
hey,
a
hey,
great example
anyone
as
can get
well.
this. Yeah, Jeff, the Tableau Alpha with animation, this is open to everybody. Just search for it. This is downloadable and people can play with it. So the jitter thing was, I have trouble explaining what a jitter is. So, well, I'll just animate it for people and say, hey, here's the strip plot, and now I'm showing what happens when you jitter it, or if you can change the length of it. So the animation that you had was, oh, I'm playing something out over time. Here, I'm just changing parameters and filters and things, and it's showing the impact that it has on the visualization. And Jeff, you and I both said we just know that this feature is going to be grossly overused and abused. And sure enough, you came up with the first abuse of it. There you go.
Yeah, I figured, why not make a heart that beats in Cincinnati, Ohio for animation. So yeah, that's there's gonna be a lot of crazy stuff that I think people will build in that for sure.
Let me just go back and just share where resource slide. Maybe we'll take a question or two. Um, but um, there are no public workshops scheduled at the moment. That will change in the next week or two, but there's a whole boatload of free resources at bigbookofdashboards.com. So check that out, sign up for the newsletter and the like. And I'm going to go look at chat and see if anybody has a question.
Questions or topic suggestions for future episodes, guests that you would like to see, anything really.
Oh, thank you. So Ben Jones is saying it started just after. So the Data Visualization Society. Hey, Ben Jones now runs dataliteracy.com, and he's doing amazing stuff with that. Please check it out. And Data Visualization Society started just after Tapestry last November. Thank you, Ben.
Is
Well,
Ben
thank you,
still on?
Desiree.
I think Ben dropped off, but
What are your thoughts on Ask Data? Um, and Jeff, I'm gonna
oh, you're giving that one to
I'm
me.
giving that one to you.
I I've only played with it a little bit. In fact, I wanna do some more with that with some real data at my office before I can chime in on that. So maybe we'll include that. Yeah, we could maybe bring that as a topic for our next chart chat. I know a lot of people have been excited about it, so I'm hopeful for it.
Yeah, the other thing, you know what? Maybe just you know, um, the other one that I I know what it is, and I've not used it myself, and I should probably need to fix that. And that's explain the mark, which is
Yeah.
using artificial intelligence to say, hey, what's
Mhm.
contributing to this this bar, circle, dot symbol being where it is. So we'll find out. All right. I'm just seeing just nice comments and no particular questions that are there. So, um, Jeff, shall we wrap things up for this edition of Chart Chat? And remind me, when are we looking at doing this again? Chart Chat round
Let's see. We
8?
put one on the calendar. What's that?
Yeah, I know we put it on the calendar. I think it's in, I can't remember if it's, uh,
We have it on the calendar for November 26th, right before Thanksgiving. The
Tuesday the
Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
26th. So even if you're not in the office, you can pipe in from home. So thank you all so much. Jeff, as always, a pleasure putting these things together and bantering with you. And hopefully we'll see a lot of you on November 26th. Hey, thank you, Kevin.
Will do. And for those who have asked about recordings, this was recorded, and I'll get this up on our YouTube channel and post it out. So thank you very much, everybody.
Good night.